Hello and welcome to the NTI PodTalk. My name is Diane Kaler and I'm Director of Nutrition Therapy Institute. Join me as I talk to interesting people in the field of health and wellness, food and farming, and anywhere else we find conversations that matter to our community. By listening, you'll learn a little about NTI and a lot about the things and people around you that make a difference for your wellness. Welcome and let's get started. Hello there. Welcome to another edition of the NTI PodTalk. This is Diane Kaler, Director of Nutrition Therapy Institute. I am so pleased to have as a guest today one of our students, almost grad. We always love having students / grads on the show because it really helps showcase what we're doing here and the type of people who are leaving NTI to go out in the world and make a difference. So Jenna Olcott is my guest today. And Jenna is, as I mentioned, a current student and almost ready to be graduating. And Jenna also has an interesting life experience that I want her to share with us. A couple different things. So Jenna, and I realize I said Olcott, Jenna Olcott.
That's okay.
Olcott, apologies. Jenna,
Yeah,
welcome.
that works.
Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
I've just loved my time at NTI. And actually, now that I'm in my independent study, I was thinking about the other day, I was like, I actually miss school, which I have never said in any of my degrees. I actually really miss my school already.
Yeah. Yeah. I know when, after I was in school, it's like such a mad rush and busy, busy, busy. And, I did it pretty quickly. And I remember like the week after I graduated, I did not know what to do with myself. And my son was young at the time. And I sort of just laid on the couch and watched Star Wars movies with him for like a week because I had no idea what to do with myself. And it was almost like I was in a little bit of a depression.
Like a lull. Yeah. Maybe that's my feeling right now. Like,
Yeah.
oh.
Yeah. I got over it, but it was
Yeah,
like you
yeah.
go, 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 go. And then suddenly it's like, oh, nothing to do.
No,
So
yeah.
anyway, so you currently work in the healthcare field, and I'm interested in hearing about that. So you already mentioned, you've had a couple of degrees. I'd love to hear
Mhm.
what your background is and what, particularly with your healthcare background.
Yeah. Well, my initial degree actually, I graduated in 2009 with a nutrition degree, just regular Western medicine. I don't really know the category of that, but I was going to go in and be a registered dietitian. I
Uh-huh.
ended up shadowing someone in the hospital as a registered dietitian. I was like, this is not for me. I did not like it really much at all. And then I ended up going to nursing school. And so I've been a nurse for about 9.5 years now, and I'm currently working in the ICUs in Northern Colorado. I float between all of them. So I see
Wow.
a lot
Okay.
of critical things that come my
Okay,
way.
yeah. So a couple of things I want to talk about. First of all, you already have a degree in nutrition. What
Mhm.
made you want to come to NTI to further and hopefully expand your education?
Oh, yes. It was very enlightening to come to NTI. So initially, what made me kind of go down that route is I didn't even really know it was a thing. I thought that was nutrition. That's what it was. You learn the food pyramid, calories in, calories out, that type of thing. And then I started having a bunch of GI issues for all my international travels over the years. And my acupuncturist actually recommended an NTI graduate, Kathy Westover. She's
Uh-huh.
amazing. She's now
Yep.
retired, but love
Yep.
her.
Yep.
And she changed my life. And I was like, I had no idea. Like I didn't learn much of anything like that in my first degree. And then I started looking at NTI and I was hooked. I was done. And then I
Yeah.
just started and I've never looked back.
Yeah. Oh, it's so nice to hear you mention Kathy Westover. We were actually in
Oh,
school
she's amazing.
together. So
Oh, were you? Oh,
yes.
she's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tried to mentor under her, but she's like, nope, I'm retired. I'm like, all right, okay. So
Yeah,
good for
that's
her.
great.
Yeah.
That's great. So, so you work in the ICU,
Mhm.
which is kind of, where people go when they have like worst case scenarios. What types of things have you seen and experienced in that work setting that really influences your perspective on, people's lifestyle choices, their dietary choices, etc.?
hmm Um, since I float to all the ICUs, I see a smorgasbord of illnesses. Like when I'm on the trauma ICU, so those can be anything from car accidents, or I'm in the cardiac ICU, which could be heart attacks or anything like that. And the medical ICUs, which we see a lot of, unfortunately, like alcoholism, that's really gone through the roof, and a lot of
Oh,
really young DKAs, diabetic ketoacidosis. We see a lot of,
uh-huh.
and it's getting younger and younger, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They come in very, very sick,
Hmm.
just uncontrolled. Like they probably don't have CGMs, or they just don't care. They've had to deal with it their whole lives. They don't want to deal with it anymore, and they just kind of become non-compliant and don't
Mm.
eat well,
Mm-hmm.
and then they come in pretty critical. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's like the big populations, but I mean, underlying chronic diseases are driving a lot of the medical patients that we see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you mentioned diabetic ketoacidosis. So I imagine maybe you have some opinions on diabetes, and you just mentioned that either people don't know about their dramatic excursions away from good blood sugar control because they're not using a device to monitor that, like a CGM. Um, or you said they have lost interest in caring about it, which is shocking to me. Like
Yeah.
it is surprising for me to hear someone say that people sort of just give up on trying to manage it, and they just,
hmm
I don't know, they don't make good decisions. So can you talk about that? Like, how does that?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I see, like I even work with nurses that are type 1 diabetics, and they're great and they're on it and they are diligent and really good. But then a lot of the patients that we see that come in with DKA, we call them frequent flyers. Like we see them a lot and they just are non-compliant. A lot of them, I mean, they've grown up with it, so they do know what they need to do. They just choose not to do it at some point. So I don't know if it's just they're depressed, or they just don't want to deal with it anymore and want to be able to live a quote unquote normal life, but their body
Mhm,
doesn't work like that, unfortunately. They can't
mhm.
just, I mean, no one should eat whatever they want because it's most of the stuff is so processed nowadays. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge driver, is the convenience of food has no nutritional value and it's just full of hidden sugars and processed carbs, and it just spikes their blood sugars beyond imaginable because they're not producing the insulin that they need.
Mhm. So you said that it's a lot of younger people. Like, what
Mhm.
do you mean when you say younger?
Like in their 20s,
Mm,
maybe like late teens, but typically it's like 20s to, yeah, 20 to 30 is usually like the age range that we see a lot of the DKAers come in as.
mm.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because like
Yeah.
it's their quality of life, like if they're getting that sick at that age, like what's
Mhm,
their longevity going to look like,
mhm,
unfortunately,
mhm.
if they're
Yeah.
non-compliant at that age.
Yeah. So you don't think it's a gap in knowledge that, for these, you're calling them frequent flyers. You don't think it's necessarily a gap in knowledge. Like, they understand what they need to do. They just
I think
choose to not. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, I
just,
know
this
that's
is
like a hard
baffling to
concept.
me.
Once you,
Yeah.
yeah, we see it so much, unfortunately. I think it's probably both, especially knowing like our degree of nutrition education in our society. It's very lacking, if
Yeah.
there at all.
Hmm.
And our diabetic educators, as wonderful as they are, like often sometimes don't tell them exactly what they probably should be doing, because they
Mm.
are still very like carb focused, and like diabetes is only carbs and that's it. And like if you're high, take more insulin. If you're low, eat more carbs. Like they don't focus on a
Mm.
nutrient dense, full,
Mm.
protein rich, healthy fat, like all around. Get your carbs from vegetables and some fruit versus like, oh no, just go eat a peanut butter jelly sandwich kind of thing.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So
So I
that's,
definitely think it's both.
yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
exhaustion of like trying to manage it, and then lack of education.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
that exhaustion could really come from the fact that they're not getting good education
Yeah.
around how to
Mhm.
manage it. Because
Totally.
if they truly are just chasing carbs, and not understanding all of the other influences like protein, like fats, you
Mhm.
know, your sleep quality, alcohol,
Absolutely. Environmental
stress
exposures and
levels. Yeah.
uh-huh. The
Yeah.
holistic view. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't have a lot of interaction with people who actually work in, in the trenches of the medical field. And so I just, from my perspective, when I work with clients, and as you know, when we teach our students, we teach them to really look at things on a holistic view and like,
Mhm.
that's just something that I would naturally be doing. And it's surprising that still, here we are, we're recording this the end of 2024, moving into 2025, and we still have a diabetes industry that is not teaching people this more holistic approach. That is
It's getting
surprising to me.
worse.
Yeah.
Like the statistics that are coming out is pretty awful. Like even with our youth now, like I heard 30% now of kids are pre-diabetic or diabetic. Like that's
Yeah.
when we know what the issues are. It's just really
Yeah.
sad. And unfortunately from like a medical side of things, like it's going to debilitate the system. Like we can't keep doing the trajectory that we're on. Our medical
Hmm.
system will not be able to deal with the chronic illnesses of people. Like we just
Hmm.
can't. We don't have
Hmm.
the means to do that. So until
Hmm.
we start focusing on our diet, lifestyle, environment, which are modifiable things. Like we have control over that.
Hmm.
And in a way that can be quite affordable, but we just have this mentality that, oh no, I have to go to the doctor. They drive everything, but they don't talk to me about like changing my diet and lifestyle and
Hmm.
they don't have time for that. It's not the doctor's fault either. Like they have
Yeah.
so many patients they have to see in a day and that's how it goes and they come in, do your vitals, talk to you a little bit, hopefully not give you another pill, but a lot of times they
Hmm.
just give you another pill and have to send you on their way because they just don't have the time and it's unfortunate.
Hmm.
And
Do
that's really
you ever,
Mhm.
yeah, do you ever have the opportunity to talk to patients, or are you allowed to talk to patients? Like, have you ever thought about, you know,
Oh yeah, all the time.
dietary? Yeah. And what kind of responses do you get?
A lot of people like if we talk about specifically like diet and like food choices, especially in the hospital and things like to things to get from the menu, like giving little tidbits of education, people just don't know.
Hmm.
It's like it's very sad to see like people just don't understand what food is, what it does, like how to choose good food choices unless
Hmm.
it says like all natural or health like healthy verbiage on the packaging. They don't really know what healthy food is, and that's not healthy food. If it's a
Right. Yeah.
it's processed.
Yeah.
And the lack of knowledge in cooking, like simple cooking practices, like that's not
Hmm.
really much of a thing that when I talk to people, they're like, I don't know how to do that. Like or they're unwilling to try. Um,
Hmm.
I love the saying that if you know how to read, you know how to cook.
Yeah.
Read a recipe,
Right.
but
Right.
people are just kind of resilient, like don't want to do it,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Wow. Well, so this is really showing you the expansiveness of the opportunities that you have
Oh
to
yeah.
work,
Yeah.
as a holistic
Mhm.
practitioner, because uh, there are definitely a lot
There's
of,
a lot of gaps.
yeah, a lot of gaps. Yeah,
And I
definitely.
think it's
Wow.
happening. I think people are starting to realize that what I do on a day-to-day thing is a driver of how I will feel in the next month, 5, 10, 20 years. Like I think people are figuring it out. It's just slow to happen, but
Hmm.
getting there.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the
Hmm.
docs are getting there too. Like a lot of our intensivists that I work with really are looking at like the whole picture of like what do they do outside of work and how do they live their life and like what are some modifiable things that we can do for the future, which is great because in critical care we're just we got to keep them alive, like get them well, get them
Yeah.
back on their feet, get them out of the ICU. But we are starting to really look at like the whole picture, which is pretty
Yeah.
great to see, especially after all my education at NTI. It's pretty great.
Yeah. Nice.
Mhm.
Well, so obviously you have this knowledge and you have done a great job of taking care of yourself, and that has shown in your sports endeavors. So
Yeah.
you qualified for the World Championships in Italy and went and participated in the triathlon. Um, Talk about kind of your own history with athletics, and how you chose to fuel yourself, and then talk about what that experience was in your uh, championship
Yeah.
adventure in
Doing
Italy.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've always been kind of athletic. I was a swimmer in high school and middle school and high school, and then I just have always just been more towards sports growing up. And I did a triathlon here in town because I've heard it's super fun. So like, let's just try it. And I did really well. I won my division, and then that gave me a slot for the World Championships Xterra off-road triathlons. So I went to northern Italy into the Dolomites and competed this last September, and it was absolutely spectacular. It was with Olympian athletes, which I was nowhere near their realm. So, but it was really cool to be a part of that. But my nutrition was a huge influence. I had no idea when I took my sports nutrition class. I didn't really understand the importance of it and how much you need it for muscle recovery and like during the race and eating simple carbs for fuel. And I have a friend that I work with that's an ultra marathoner, and he just like did a deep dive into like you need carbs. And then like all
Hmm.
my education at NTI was just so eye-opening of what I needed to do to flourish. And it did make a big difference. Huge.
That's awesome. That's great to
Yeah,
hear.
it was really cool.
Um, that is, so, I'm not, extensively literate in the field of sports and athletics, but that sounds like quite an amazing feat to only do two triathlons. One, like, just sort of,
Beginner level.
it sounds like fun. I'm going to
Yeah.
do it. And then qualify for the second one where you're traveling internationally. That sounds like a pretty
It was
amazing
it was
feat.
crazy. I'm like, what do I look first? Like, what is that even? What? What's happening? And then I got the notification that I got this a slot for Worlds, and I couldn't believe it. And then I just had all my friends like, you have to go, you have to do this. Like it's all it, and it really was like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And like really focusing on increasing my protein intake, that was huge.
Yeah.
Then like during um actual training day, like during my training and stuff, like focusing on simple carbs, but although otherwise all around it was like healthy fats and healthy proteins. Really,
Hmm.
really increasing that helped a ton.
Yeah. So what kind of simple carbs do you do? What do they use for as athletes? Simple carbs. Is it, I mean, you're not eating candy, I assume.
No, no, they make like liquid, it's kind of like liquid sugar, but like
Yeah,
liquid
okay.
goose.
The
And I
goose
just found
shot.
the
Yeah.
goose, I just found like the cleanest one I could find. And I really,
Yeah.
really like it's made with like chia seeds and like really well sourced things. Um, but during the race, I was having about 15 grams of carbs about every 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how
Hmm.
I felt. So it was
Hmm.
quite a lot of simple carbs, which I don't normally do, but
Yeah.
that's your fuel. Like you're burning
Sh-
so many calories so quickly
Sure.
that you need that much.
Yeah. And, totally. I mean, I think that most people need to avoid simple carbs,
Yeah. Yes.
unless they are extreme athletes
Yeah.
during, their athletic event. So yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Um, all right. So any other like words of wisdom for someone who is interested in doing training for these extreme athletic events?
Yeah. I would say definitely training, nutrition is just as important as training. Like focus on both equally. Make sure you're getting adequate intake calories in terms of protein and fat, and then focus on carbs during the aerobic part of things. And then listen to your body. If you're tired, take that rest day. Because
Mhm.
I wasn't doing that for a while, and I would just get completely exhausted and just run myself down. And I think that is so important for big athletes, like trying to get to the next level. Is like you have to be able to rest and at the same time cross train, like get in the gym and build the muscle to do the cardio.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the one thing that I hear consistently about training for athletes is that more is not necessarily better.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, because you do get overtired and,
Mhm.
if you're doing 7, I don't know, intense training workouts per week, um, and, only 3 of them or 4 of them are actually ones where you're, able to work at the level that you need to, the
Mhm.
others, you're just kind of doing damage to yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's better to only do those 3 or 4 really intense workouts and then the other days do lighter
yeah.
stuff.
My rule of thumb for my training was because I work at the hospital and I work 12. So the days that I work 12s, those are my rest days because I'm just like, I'm not gonna wake up at 4 a.m. and do a workout. I'm just not gonna do
Oh
that.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
would give myself about 2 to 3 days a week of just
Yeah.
yoga.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good. Good. All right. So as I mentioned, you are in your last course, getting ready to graduate. What like as I mentioned, I think the sky's the limit for you. You have so many opportunities. What are your plans? What do you think you're gonna do?
As much as I think I want to do a little bit of both because I really do love being in the ICU. So I think I'll always be a nurse, but I did start a business for nutrition counseling. It's called Exploring Wellness. So I am taking on clients, and I think I'm going to really try to focus on kind of like insulin control, sugars, like gut health, dysbiosis
Hmm.
kind of thing. I really am
Hmm.
fascinated with the gut
Hmm.
and like insulin and diabetes and things like that.
Yeah. Is there any like, are you allowed to talk about your business when you're working at the hospital? Like, are you able to s- give people business cards, or is that frowned upon?
No, we can.
Oh,
I
you
mean, to
can.
my knowledge, I don't think it's like because it's all out of pocket.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't know. I feel like it'd be
Yeah.
preventative health, so why wouldn't that be a good?
Yeah. I
I've never heard
yeah.
of any conflict of interest, but I don't
Well,
know.
yeah,
I
that's
need to
it.
look into
That's it.
that.
Yeah, like if they would accuse you of doing some sort of conflict of interest thing and you're not
Yeah.
allowed to do that, which seems crazy, but I don't know,
Never know. I could
crazy things
see,
have happened.
I have a feeling I'll end up working with a lot of my coworkers, a lot of my nurses that like
Okay.
don't feel great. Like the night
Yeah.
shifters, they always feel lousy and like trying to get them on good routines and things like that. I could see working
Yeah.
with a lot of coworkers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you see yourself working with athletes too, going, focusing on that
Oh,
sort of?
I think I definitely could. I just don't want to get into the whole like counting carbs and proteins and stuff because it
Yes.
can give you a complex. And I have already had some like personal eating issues over the years, and NTI
Uh-huh.
has helped significantly like with that because I'm not afraid of food anymore. But I
Good.
just don't want to get to the point of like counting things. You know
Yeah.
what I
And
mean?
that's big in sports
And that can be really
athletics?
big in sports. Yes.
Okay. All
Like
right.
counting your
Yeah.
macros.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, counting I think is I don't know how, what the pros and cons are in sports and athletics, but I think for most people counting is detrimental.
Can
So
be detrimental. Yeah, I
yeah,
agree. I
yeah,
agree.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I get too obsessive about it, I think.
yeah, and it's
Um,
very time consuming.
yeah, yeah, having to measure everything and count
hmm
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so tell us your website for your business and any other contact information that people can reach out to you or follow you.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm at exploringwellnessllc.com. And then I do have an Instagram. It's exploring wellness, but there's no G, so it's just exploring wellness.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And then on my website is all my direct contact information.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I'm
All
very
right.
excited. I
Well,
love it.
yeah. And then once you graduate, you'll be able to have a listing on our grads page as well. So people
Oh,
can find
cool.
you there
Yay.
too. Yeah. Um, all right. Well, anything else you want to share before we say goodbye for today?
Uh, I just want to thank you for all your hard work that you've done with NTI. Like it is truly has been life changing for me to be in this coursework. Like even
Thank
if I
you.
don't make it into a profession, like the knowledge I have gained and like spread out through the world. Like it's just incredible. So
Yeah.
thank you. And this was so fun to be able to do this with you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That is my goal, is to give our students the education so that they can go out and make a difference. And making a difference may not necessarily be, a business or actually being in practice, but just by being a role model and an example of how eating well is optimizing your own health, that shows, people will notice, and they watch what you eat and they're like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So, I really think this is such important information. And so thank you for, enjoying it and finding it helpful and making it a life-changing experience for you. I'm appreciative that you, have that acknowledgement that that's what happened for you. So, all right. Well, Jenna, it was so nice talking to you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. And I see in the background, you've got all kinds of guitars, and
That's my husband.
it looks like you have such a eclectic life experience. You do lots of things in your life,
We have
and
too many hobbies, too many.
yeah, that's great. That's great. So, all right. Well, thanks so much for being here. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I'm happy to hear the successes you've had and the potential for even greater things for you. So,
Thanks, Diane.
all right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Diane Kaler here again. If you found this conversation interesting and haven't already become a student at NTI, check us out at ntischool.com. We hope to see you soon.